wrong thing to say. I can say it out loud, I can scream it, whatever the emotion is. And
For years, the world believed they understood her story. They saw the success, the spotlight, the kind of fame that most people spend their entire lives chasing. To millions, she was untouchable, a symbol of achievement, someone who had already made it in every possible way. But what if everything you believed was only a carefully constructed illusion? Because behind the performances, behind the interviews, behind the polished image the world adored, there was something far deeper happening. Something hidden, something painful, something that never made it into headlines, interviews, or magazine covers. And that's where the truth begins. Because her life was never built on comfort. It wasn't shaped by luxury, privilege, or ease. It was built on survival. And survival doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't look like success. It doesn't feel like the highlight reels people see on the outside. It looks like struggle, like doubt, like moments where everything inside you is telling you to stop, but you continue anyway. And the most powerful part? She didn't stop. Even when the odds were against her. Even when life gave her every reason to give up. Even when no one would have blamed her for walking away, she kept going. And that decision changed everything. Because the person the world eventually came to admire wasn't created by fame. She was built long before it ever arrived. In places no one looked, in moments no one saw, and in a life that demanded strength long before success ever entered the picture. What does it take to survive a childhood that no one talks about? Not the kind filled with laughter, safety, and stability, but the kind shaped by uncertainty, instability, and quiet struggles no one sees from the outside. For her, childhood wasn't about freedom, it was about adaptation. Every day came with challenges that most people wouldn't experience in a lifetime. There were moments of hunger that forced her to understand responsibility too early. Moments of fear that taught her how to stay quiet, stay alert, and stay strong. And moments where silence became her only protection. But here's what makes her story even more powerful. Even in that environment, something inside her refused to disappear. Because sometimes when a child grows up too quickly, they don't lose themselves. They develop something far more powerful: resilience. Not the loud, visible kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that builds slowly inside you. The kind that carries you through situations that should have broken you. The kind that keeps you moving forward even when everything else feels impossible. And in that silence, something extraordinary began to form. A voice. At first it was soft, almost unnoticeable, but it was real. And over time, that voice became more than just sound. It became her escape, her identity, and the first sign that even in the most difficult circumstances, something powerful was waiting to emerge. Before recognition, before success, before anyone believed in her, there was struggle. Real struggle. The kind that doesn't get recorded, celebrated, or remembered by the world. The kind that happens quietly, in the background of everyday life, where no one is watching. While others were building normal routines, she was carrying responsibilities far beyond her years. Working, helping, surviving. There was no roadmap for what she was going through, no guide, no guarantee that things would ever get better. But even in that uncertainty, she held on to something powerful: purpose. Because deep inside, she understood something most people overlook. Her life didn't have to end where it began. Even when everything around her suggested limitations, she chose to believe in possibilities. But belief alone was never enough. Belief without action fades. So she acted. She practiced when no one was watching. She trained when there was no audience. She pushed herself when there was no guarantee of reward. And that's where her transformation truly began. Because the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise isn't talent, it's persistence. It's showing up again and again, even when results are uncertain, even when progress feels invisible, even when the world hasn't noticed you yet. And every step she took, every effort she made, was preparing her for something much bigger. something she couldn't yet see, but was already on its way. Every journey has a turning point, a moment where things begin to shift. Not all at once, but gradually, quietly at first. For her, it started with small signs. A voice that stood out, a presence that felt different, a style that couldn't be easily ignored. People began to notice, not because she demanded attention, but because she earned it. But recognition never comes without resistance. In fact, the more unique someone becomes, the more resistance they face. Because the world isn't always quick to accept something new. There's hesitation, there's doubt, there's criticism from those who don't understand. And for many, that pressure becomes too much. But not for her. Instead of backing down, she leaned in. She worked harder. She refined her skills. She studied her craft. She adapted to every challenge thrown at her. Each performance became stronger. Each moment became more refined. Each step brought her closer to something undeniable. Until eventually, the world could no longer ignore her. Because consistency has a way of breaking through even the strongest doubt, and persistence has a way of turning silence into recognition. What once went unnoticed was now impossible to overlook. And with that moment, everything began to change. Not just for her career, but for her entire life. Success often looks like the destination, the end goal, the reward, the moment everything finally pays off. But what most people don't see is the cost behind it. Because success doesn't come free. Behind every achievement, there are sacrifices, long nights, mental exhaustion, physical strain, emotional pressure. And the higher you rise, the heavier the weight becomes. For her, success didn't just open doors, it opened expectations. And expectations can be overwhelming. Because now, every move matters. Every decision is analyzed. Every mistake is magnified. There's no room for error, no space for rest, no moment where the pressure truly disappears. And while the world celebrated her success, something else was quietly building behind the scenes. Fatigue, pressure, and an internal shift that was becoming harder to ignore. But she kept going, because stopping wasn't an option. Not when so much was on the line, not when so many were watching, not when the stakes had become this high. So she pushed forward, past limits, past comfort, past what most people could endure, without realizing that something deeper was beginning to form, something that would eventually challenge everything she had built and change everything she thought she knew.
Every life reaches a breaking point, a moment where everything shifts, where the ground beneath you no longer feels stable, where the path ahead suddenly disappears. For her, that moment didn't come with warning. It came suddenly, quietly at first, then all at once. What once felt secure started to unravel. What once felt certain became uncertain, and what she believed was unbreakable was no longer the same. But the impact wasn't just professional, it was personal. Because when trust is broken, it changes everything. How you see people, how you see situations, how you see the world around you. In that moment, something inside her shifted. The illusion was gone, and reality had arrived. She was faced with a decision that would define the next chapter of her life: to fall apart or to rise, to let the moment break her or to rebuild from it. And she chose the harder path. She chose to rise. Even when the pain was heavy, even when clarity felt out of reach, even when moving forward felt impossible. Because strength isn't about avoiding pain, it's about facing it, sitting with it, and continuing forward anyway. And in that decision, she began transforming into something even stronger than before, not untouched, but unbreakable. What happens after everything falls apart? Some people never recover. They get stuck in the moment, defined by the loss, limited by what they went through. But others rebuild. And not just rebuild, they evolve. She became one of those people. Instead of letting pain destroy her, she used it as fuel, as motivation, as a reason to become stronger than before. Because pain, when understood, can become one of the most powerful forces in a person's life. Her mindset shifted, her priorities changed, and her vision became clearer than ever before. Because now, it wasn't just about success, it was about meaning, it was about purpose. And that change transformed everything. Every decision she made carried more weight, every performance carried more depth, every action reflected growth. She wasn't trying to return to who she used to be, she was becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone built from experience, not just talent. Because sometimes you don't become who you're meant to be until you lose who you were. And from that loss, something powerful begins to rise. While the world saw her success, they didn't see the fight happening behind the scenes, the quiet battles, the internal struggles, the moments that never made it to the spotlight. Because fame has a strange effect. It doesn't remove your challenges, it amplifies them. And behind her success, there were moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments where continuing felt incredibly difficult. But she never stopped showing up. Even when it wasn't easy, even when it felt overwhelming, even when no one would have blamed her for stepping away, she stayed consistent. Because consistency is what separates temporary success from lasting impact. Every time she stepped forward, she was choosing discipline over comfort. Every time she continued, she was choosing growth over fear. And that mindset carried her further than talent ever could. Because talent can open doors, but consistency keeps them open, and persistence ensures you walk through them again and again. Her journey wasn't built on perfection, it was built on effort, and that effort made all the difference. Not everyone transforms pain into purpose. Most people try to forget it, to bury it, to move past it without ever truly understanding it. But those who learn to use it become something extraordinary. Because pain, when processed, becomes powerful. And for her, every experience became a building block. Every challenge became a lesson. Every setback became a stepping stone. Her story was no longer just about success. It was about impact, about connection, about helping others feel less alone in their own struggles. Because when people see someone who has been through darkness and still stands strong, it changes something inside them. It gives them hope. And hope is powerful. It inspires people to keep going when they feel like giving up. It reminds them that their current situation is not their final destination. And her journey became a message that speaks without words, that even in your lowest moments, even when things feel impossible, you still have the ability to rise. And that message is bigger than any achievement, bigger than any recognition, because it reaches beyond her and into the lives of others. Today, her story continues, but now it carries a different meaning, because she is no longer just known for what she achieved, she is remembered for what she overcame, for the strength she showed, for the journey she endured, and for the message she left behind. That no matter where you start, no matter what you go through, you still have the power to rise, to grow, to become something greater than your circumstances. And her journey stands as proof that even after hardship, even after setbacks, even after everything, you can still build something meaningful, something powerful, something lasting. Because the strongest stories are not the ones that begin perfectly. They are the ones that survive, the ones that evolve, the ones that turn pain into purpose. And her legacy is not just her success, it is the impact she created, the inspiration she left behind, and the reminder that lives on in everyone who hears her story. Because in the end, it's not about where you start, it's about how far you're willing to go.